Hi, I'm Dr. Ty Vincent, and this is another video in the LDI explanation series. This video is specifically to address the concerns some people have over me removing the beta-glucuronidase enzyme from all the LDI and LDA doses. It's going to be a little long and involved. It's unscripted as usual, so just bear with me. And hopefully all the questions you might have about this will be answered sometime during this video. So when EPD was first discovered and developed and then evolved into LDA, the belief that whole time, circa 1960 to recently, 2015 maybe, let's say, the belief was that the enzyme beta-glucuronidase was the key to the whole treatment working. That the enzyme itself was the signal to the immune system, telling the immune system to promote tolerance to whatever antigens were administered with the enzyme. And so the enzyme has always been added at the same standard dose to every dose of antigen ever given for the last 55 years. It started to occur to me after developing LDI and using a lot of different antigens at different doses that the response to the therapy is 100% related to the dose of antigen that I give the patient, even though there's the same amount of beta-glucuronidase enzyme put into every single one of those doses. For example, if I give somebody with Lyme disease the Lyme LDI mixture, I can give it to them at 20C, 19C, 18C, 17C, and nothing happens at all, and then give them 16C, and they have a dramatic response. Well, the only difference in that dose series was the concentration of the antigen, because you put the exact same amount of enzyme into every one of those doses. So just logically and scientifically speaking, what possible difference could the enzyme itself be making? If you look at the LDA mixtures that are produced by the pharmacy, the food dose mixture comes as two separate doses as well. There's the MX and the LX, and they're about 1 million times different between the two in terms of concentration. And one might work for you and the other not, but the enzyme is the same in both doses. So just logically, common sense would tell you that the enzyme makes no difference at all, and that it can't possibly make any difference. So a couple of years ago, I decided to test this theory, and we gave our nurse at the office, who many of you communicated with over the years, gave her LDI dose that had been working very predictably and very consistently for her for over a year. We gave her the dose with no enzyme, and it worked exactly the same. So we did that for about a year with her, and I never removed the enzyme from anyone else, nobody else in my family or other patients at all. But for that year, 5 or 6 doses with her LDI doses, it made no difference at all, leaving the enzyme out. So since then, I continued to use the enzyme in all doses just dogmatically, sort of out of respect for the people who developed this therapy before me, not to rock the boat, which of course isn't my personality. And I kept it in everybody's doses and didn't worry about it. But then the beta-glucuronidase became in short supply. It was hard to acquire and hard to get and hard to dilute ourselves. For those of us using a lot of LDI antigens and not just the ones from the pharmacy, everybody would run out. And so we had to find a way to obtain and dilute and sterilize the enzyme ourselves, which is extra cost and time, and it's annoying. And certain naturopathic practitioners, depending on the state in which they practice, could not acquire the enzyme themselves at all. And so they would appeal to me and say, what do I do? And my response to some of them was, the enzyme probably doesn't even make any difference at all. So just stop using it and see what happens. And then after several months went by, I would get feedback from these practitioners, the few that started doing this, and they said everybody responded exactly the same as when they had been using the enzyme. Same with and without, same doses, same patient. So because of the annoyance of the beta availability, and also the fact that the FDA is most concerned with the beta-glucuronidase enzyme in terms of the pharmacies that make LDA coming under scrutiny or attacked by the FDA, the main issue that they have is the use of beta-glucuronidase, because that enzyme is not FDA approved for use in human beings in any capacity at all. So if you just take it out of the therapy, you don't have to worry so much about the FDA. If the pharmacy would stop producing it and stop using it with the LDA kits, they would probably not be scrutinized by the FDA anymore at all, because then all they have are basically diluted allergen extracts, which every doctor is allowed to make in their office, and pharmacies are allowed to produce with ease. So as of the middle of November 2016, I just completely stopped using the beta in any and all doses for patients, including my own and my family and everybody else who gets it from me. Hundreds and hundreds of people, probably more than 1,000 people. And my observation has been, now it's been 3 months, 4 months now since that change was made, no difference whatsoever. I've also, since doing that, discovered at least 3 patients that I had been treating for a while who were apparently reacting adversely to the enzyme itself. Most common source for the beta-glucuronidase enzyme pharmaceutically was shellfish, abalone, or some other mollusk species, and it's possible that some people may have an adverse response to it for sure. And so I've been able to identify, going with and without enzyme, that certain patients had an adverse response to the enzyme, which is why they seem to react sort of predictably and badly to every dose of LDI they ever receive. So now that variable's out of the equation. There really is no risk or harm associated with taking that away. I know some of the concerns people voiced were that maybe they would have some bad response to their antigens because the enzyme wasn't there, and that really makes no sense at all, common sense or scientifically speaking, because every time you eat, you get exposed to food antigens without beta-glucuronidase, presumably, so why doesn't that, harm you? Every time I take a breath outside here, I'm getting exposed to pollens and molds and who knows what else, and I'm not being harmed by that, and those are antigen exposures with no beta-glucuronidase. The other odd thing about beta-glucuronidase is that every one of you, every human being pretty much, has beta-glucuronidase measurable in their body already. It's produced by your gut bacteria, and you can measure it in your bloodstream. So this isn't something that's even foreign to the human body, therefore I have no idea why the FDA has an issue with it at all, because it already exists in our body. But since it exists in our body at low levels and whatnot already, maybe that's why it's not necessary as part of the LDA or LDI treatment. So, in any case, my experience with this has been definitely 100% certainty that the beta-glucuronidase enzyme makes no difference in the outcome of LDI or LDA. And that is total heresy. It goes against everything we were taught to believe in for the last 55 years, so there's going to be a great deal of pushback from those who've been using the therapy for a long time and have believed that it is the crux of the whole therapy. But my response to that would be that if your experience is only that you have ever used the enzyme 100% of the time previously, and you've never tried it without, then you're not an authority on the subject at all. If you have no experience on both sides, you only choose to believe one thing and keep doing it that way, and you know that it works, that's dogma. That is the definition of dogma. And in this case, if it were a completely harmless, inert thing, both medico-legally and physiologically, oh well, so what? Just keep using it if you want to. It makes no difference in my opinion. But since it's the main target of the FDA's scrutiny, and since some patients have a negative response to it, there is risk in using it. And in my opinion, therefore, it's best if everyone stops using it. So, I don't know if that satisfies everybody's curiosity on the subject or not. Patients out there who are watching this video who are also working with another practitioner who does LDA and has been doing it for some time, they will probably adamantly tell you that the enzyme is the key to the whole thing and that I'm totally crazy. And like I said, I have experience on both sides of this issue. I've tried it both ways, and I can tell you there's no difference. Those practitioners out there who've only ever tried it with the enzyme and never without, unfortunately, really don't know what they're talking about, do they?